for your viewing pleasure. I have a UPERFECT monitor. This is a new tech that they are using. This one they actually sent over. I do buy them often, but this one they sent over and they said, you want to review it? And I was like, all right, let's do this. So this is using their new NxLED tech. Basically, it's a multi-matrix type screen. Do they have the information here? That helps with viewability. They don't have any cool pictures. I saw them before, but now they're gone.
Okay, so here's the monitor. UGame E4 Next. It's an 18.5 inch monitor, 120 hertz refresh. Obviously, that speaks towards the gaming factor here. 120 hertz is also nice because certain games, if you do give it 120 hertz refresh, especially on things like Switch, it can actually give you certain performance modes. So that's really nice. 1080p, that's going to be very good for reasonable gaming where you don't need a lot of scaling. Very nice. So this monitor is designed to be used in very bright environments, outdoors, next to very bright windows, offices, that kind of thing. I'm going to be testing this monitor here in a very bright scenario. This is essentially how they're describing it here. We have our standard backlight. The NxtLED is essentially going to help with brightness and help with not having too much. Then they have this soft light film that they say they put over it, and then of course the exterior coating there. What it's especially supposed to do is help with reflections. So diffuses reflections. You will see in this video, I've been using it for a little while now actually. This voiceover is being recorded later, and it does diffuse reflections very well, better than even a standard IPS. It's very good. It also does, of course, because it's an IPS and it has this good viewing, it has this good light diffusion. It does also offer very good viewing angles as well. Also very good if you're outdoors.
They essentially it helps with viewability in super bright light. We'll put it that way. It's going to get nice and bright, and it also helps with reflections very well, and it helps with other issues. You can see here I brought out my OLED here. I kind of did this on purpose because I was like, this is my primary laptop over here, put on a white screen, and look at how reflective that is. I'm not playing with this angle, right? See that? I'm in a brutal spot. I have a big overhead light, which is not usually too much of a problem, but I also have a giant bright window behind me. I spent many a year working in an office type environment near a window, and viewability was always a major issue. It's one of the reasons that I don't necessarily always buy glossy screens, and I usually avoid them. They're okay if you use them in a dark area, but as soon as you get into a bright area, they can be pretty bad. That's on a white screen there, right? Look at that. Look at the difference in window reflectivity here, right? So that's that there. Just a little bit. If I can really try to grab the window, I can grab a little bit of the light. Not too much of an issue though. And this one here is a straight up mirror, right? It doesn't matter what I do. It's a mirror, just straight up. So even on a black screen versus a light screen, we have the advantage of non-glossy versus glossy. That's part of it, glossy versus non-glossy. Now these are both relatively bright screens, regardless of the reflection of the window behind you. It means it's also going to give you a lot of brightness. That brightness is really going to help cut through, visibility issues. Like I can barely see the screen over here, right? Like, of course, if I go onto a white, white screen over there, sure, it's a little better, obviously. But on black, it was essentially unusable.
Now, what's sort of funny is UPERFECT, when they sent me this UPERFECT monitor, they actually were so confident they sent me one of the competitors here. They sent me this one here, and they were like, you know what, I want you to do a comparison. And it's like a similar type screen. So 18.5 inches. It's also 1080p. It's lower refresh, but it's, relatively high. The one thing to be aware of here, though, this is 100 hertz. The UPERFECT over here is 120 hertz. So there are some games, for example, if you're using a Nintendo Switch 2, it has to be 120 hertz. If you have 120 hertz, it will unlock essentially like a balanced mode on a lot of Switch games, which means that rather than going for either 30 FPS quality or 60 FPS performance, it gives you something in the middle, like 40, 45, or 50, which is usually how I play. So having that 120 hertz may not seem like much, but it is very important. Going beyond that doesn't make a big difference to me, but I do want to see exactly 120 hertz or above. That's fine. These guys claimed 125 hertz, 125% sRGB. Weirdly, when I put them side by side, it didn't make a big difference. I mean, they're both just around 100% sRGB, that's fine. And the one interesting thing here, this thing has brutal reflections, absolutely brutal reflections. So I haven't used this this tech here where it's like NXT tech where it's supposed to reduce blur, glare and that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's an anti-glare screen. An anti-glare screen is an anti-glare screen, but it's not. This is an IPS screen. This is an IPS screen. This makes it, you'll see it in a moment, but this makes a huge difference for bringing down glare, like quite a big difference there. So they were so confident here. They were like, you know what, we're going to actually send you this screen that's supposed to be, a competitor screen on paper. And like it wasn't a terrible screen or anything like that. But when it came down to brightness and also more specifically the glare levels, it was not even comparable.
What do we have over here? This is the actual spec here. It's the UPERFECT 18.5 inch monitor, portable monitor. They always have like names, but this one is the NxtLED model. This one here, specs wise, has 120 hertz refresh, so it's essentially a gaming, well, not essentially, it is a gaming monitor. It has access to FreeSync as well. So you're going to get FreeSync to help with tearing, 120 hertz refresh for gaming. It's only 1080p, but that's fine because it's primarily designed, well, they sell it, a lot of it actually as a gaming monitor. So 1080p for portable type gaming, like laptop style gaming, is still kind of the sweet spot unless you have like a 5080, 5090. A lot of the time gaming at 1080p, you're going to be shooting for your 1080p 120 hertz on something like a 5060, 5070 anyways. So that's great. You're going to get that really, really high refresh. You're not going to be killing the GPU too much. It's large, 18.5, but it's not too big. If it was like, if it was like a 30-inch screen or something, or 27-inch screen at 1080p, it would become very pixelated. However, at 1080p 18.5, this is kind of, I don't really want to get much bigger until, then you're going to start to get into some of the pixelation. I don't find that here. Of course, it doesn't have the density of 15-inch at 1600p, but I'm also typically not, this is not going to sit on my lap. Come in, get some of that reflectivity there. You can barely see me. Can you see me? How about over here? You can see my shadow. That's actually my shadow. You can't see my reflection though. That's cool. Anyways, so the other thing is, you actually end up with very good colors. So we can see here, right, we end up with not the same blacks, obviously, as an OLED. It's a little exaggerated here because of the way the lighting is, but we do end up with very, very bright colors. So, we'll go into a color test, but you can see right off the bat here, these oranges are really pushing into the orange color space, looking nice and vibrant. Unfortunately, we have to cut through this reflection. It's come at an angle maybe, like that. You can see here, same idea. Really, really vibrant colors because they're both very, very high color space monitors. You can see there. Much better on the phone. The DJI, it's always exaggerating everything, unfortunately. It's just not designed for that, whereas the phone is it's like a camera, so you can get a much better image out of it. Okay, so in this mirror, I mean, I didn't even intend for this to be, but like that's literally a mirror, right? So that's one of the issues of glossy. Like that's literally me. Can you see me over here, right? You can see my shadow, right? Me literally blocking the light, but you can't see my reflection, right? Like this is now my hand in front of my face. You can't, it looks no different. Okay, so anyways, let's tilt the screen back slightly so it's not so bad. It doesn't help, it's exactly the same. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, anyways, so we're gonna look at the blacks here. Obviously, the OLED has the better blacks, right? The absolute blacks here. But that can actually be a major issue when you're in a bright environment, right? The absolute blacks here are horrible because it's a literal freaking mirror. Over here, yeah, it doesn't have the deepest blacks as the OLED, but it doesn't matter. It actually appears to be blacker because this is like, it's a mirror. I don't see this. I'm looking at myself over here. So yeah, it's a little hard to compare that way, but let's come in here. We'll get a little color going. Right, so let's pause right here for a second. Now, these both have very bright, oh my God, that reflection. Is there any way I can fix that? Let's go like that. Cut down the reflection, whatever, it is what it is. I guess that helps the video. They both have very, very high color space. So I'm gonna come in here and also bring my phone because I find my phone does sometimes do a better job of showing color space. Now you can see on the right here, this is an OLED screen, 100% DCI-P3 color space screen. So very, very vibrant reds on the right. I'm actually seeing even more vibrancy on this over here. This actually, you can see it on the camera now. I'm pretty sure you can see it. I can, visually. My eyes can pick it up. This is actually an even more vibrant red over here than this over here. They're both great. I mean, they're both fantastic. Very, very bright reds. Very, very vibrant reds, to put it that way. But I'm actually noticing that on the UPERFECT, it's actually better. It also looks potentially more accurate. Let's see if I can get this on the camera. It doesn't show up too well. She has a little bit of an orange skin on the right. just a little bit of an orange tinge on her skin. I have never met this person, but it does look a little bit unnatural, a little bit over there. Over here, based on her being Caucasian, potentially Caucasian, her skin looks more normal. So I haven't met this person, but this over here on the left, you get actually the same or actually better reds. I'm going to say they're more vibrant. So you can actually push further into the color space, and her skin looks more natural on the portable, which is crazy to say. This is a Lenovo Legion sold to be a good screen. 100% DCI-P3 OLED screen, blah, 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 blah. And I'm actually saying the portable looks better. Now, they're different resolutions, but the one on the left just looks more natural. And it's bright, right? It looks fantastic. They both do here with something on the screen. It's not as bad, like you can still see the reflections, right? I cannot get that to pop up on the screen here, no matter what angle I'm at. Okay, now here's another scene. Now here they're looking, it's starting to even out a little bit here. The one on the left here actually looks a little bit more potentially natural. Let's actually just pause right here. The DCI-P3 over here actually looks slightly unnatural. It can be nice if you're playing video games, because, for example, the green becomes so vibrant that it really just pop off the screen, but that's not a real color. Well, it is a real color. That's not a natural representation or accurate representation of how this grass would appear. That grass is not that green in real life. That is like, it looks like nuclear waste or something from a cartoon, right? That's not how the world looks. It's dramatically over-exaggerated over here. It looked great for shows and that kind of stuff, but it's over-dramatic. Over here, this is actually how it would look. It's still incredibly vibrant, but it's much more natural, right? The greens, that's how the greens would look. Like, you get a little bit of yellowing over here, but it's still nice and vibrant. Nice, vibrant greens over here, but they're not like toxic waste, right? Like a cartoon style toxic waste, right? So they do look much more natural on the left. Both good though, right? Both good. Let's pause for a sec here, get these caught up. Yeah, they both look good. It definitely looks like this is slightly more color space outside of the red, which is fine. The UPERFECT here just has slightly more accuracy. I can't tell you the calibration level of it, but to my eyes, it looks more like it's a more accurate color representation over here. It just looks more like what it probably looks like. So if you're actually doing color accurate work, to be quite honest, you'd probably be better served using the 100%, 145% sRGB over here. It just looks more accurate. Okay. Now, this is out of the box tuning. Let's play around with this a little bit. Now, this screen over here has lots of settings. Normally I do the settings first, but I wanted to kind of wait for a sec. So we can come in here and go to the settings. Now there's brightness, contrast, black equalizer, gay mode, all that kind of stuff. We'll just leave that. Saturation, hue, sharpness. You can turn up the saturation if you want, like if you really want to be super saturated. I'm finding it to be like fine as it is, to be honest, but you can turn it up. And it does visually make the colors more saturated. So I can actually bring that up so that it is more saturated. It starts to become exaggerated, but then it also equals out more here. So at this point now, we're getting to the point where the saturation over here is actually getting closer to the saturation here. This isn't probably an oversaturated screen. It's a gaming laptop. It's also used for other purposes as well, but it is first and foremost a gaming laptop. It does push into the oversaturation level because it's supposed to make the games pop off the screen and look more dramatic. They're actually less accurate, but it just looks more dramatic, right? So you can do that. There is a lot of ways of being like, well, now it's going to be potentially more saturated. They're going to look similar to one another. It's fine. We'll come over here, saturation, whatever. Type C, reset. Now we do have these different modes. We have FreeSync turned on. That's fine. The volume is obviously turned up. Now we do have these color modes here. So I have it just default. That's literally just default. sRGB. I don't know if it actually. Let's go like that. Different color tones. Ooh, that actually looks really vibrant there. 6,800? 93 is too blue. 75. Kind of like that. 6,500. We might slightly over-exaggerate the blues, but it looks nice. Anyways, you can play with them. You can play with them as need be, right? So you have that. Apparently they're calling that sRGB. I don't know. Is it though? Yeah, it just becomes dimmer though. I don't like that. I actually preferred the user mode. So let's come in here. We'll do a little audio test. So that's max volume. It's reasonably loud. want to see something kind of sad? Yeah, the monitor has better speakers than the... Oh, it has way better speakers. Holy crap, yeah. This laptop does not have good speakers. These Legion 5s, they do not have good speakers. Man, does that ever sound better though. Wow. It's not even comparable. Oh my god, such trash over here. Ah, it hurts my ears even. Yeah. That's not even comparable. I mean, we're not comparing them to the best laptop. The Legion 5 here definitely does not have, you know, best-in-class speakers by any stretch of the imagination, but this is way better speakers. Now, does that matter? I mean, clearly, obviously, I didn't come into this narrative being like, yeah, it's going to make your laptop sound better. It does in this case. What it's actually meant for, to be honest, is if you hook it up to something like a phone, maybe like a tablet or something, or your handheld, you know, potentially your handheld or your tablet or whatever off to the side here. And of course, the other thing you can do here is hook up consoles, like I said, Nintendo Switch 2 over here. I don't have to worry about audio. Audio is going to actually come out of the screen here. It's right in front of me. At this viewing distance, like it doesn't have to sit directly on my lap, like my laptop. You know, it's sitting a little bit further away. So it looks great. Now, this may sound strange to people because people don't necessarily know this, but just so you know, the Nintendo Switch 2, yes, it can output 1080p on the screen, and it can do 4K to an external, but it's actually not very happy doing 4K. It'll work, but it uses a lot of upscaling to get to that 4K. So yeah, as I was saying, yeah, 1080p may seem like you'd be like, well, you know, the Switch 2 does 4K output. Yes, it does, and so does, like, you know, you output to the Switch 1, you can output the Switch 1 to a 4K TV, right? They're designed because most TVs are 4K. That doesn't mean it's able to do that with like high resolution or anything like that, high settings. These devices, like the Nintendo Switch 2, especially the Nintendo Switch 1, and of course, you know, all the handhelds, ROG, Legion Go, all these devices, they are actually happier outputting to a 1080p screen like this, because a 1080p screen like this, it's way easier to drive. When you output to a 4K screen, it'll output 4K, but it has to use all this scaling and, you know, upscaling, which ends up killing your performance. It ends up, you know, you do a lot of scaling, so you end up getting like pixelation and blur and all that kind of stuff. That's not going to be an issue. So to be quite honest, for, you know, lower power devices like ROG Ally, Legion Go, MSI Claw, One X Player, all these devices here, you're actually better off outputting to a 1080p screen. And see what we get. No screen tearing, see that? No screen tearing, FreeSync capable screen. No screen tearing at all. Looking great, feeling great. Yeah, I mean, having this giant window, as you can see over here, we still have the giant window. That's my, like, I'm not cheating screen. So we have a gigantic, mega screen behind, a window behind me there, making all kinds of reflections. And even despite that, this looks looking real nice here, right? Now, of course, you can also just close windows, right? It doesn't mean you always have, like maybe you're in a public place that's, you know, super bright, a cafe or something like that, and you don't have access to turning off all your, like dimming the lights, that kind of stuff. You're next to a giant window and you don't have a control over that. You know, of course now, right, it's going to look obviously better with an even darker setup here. Right now it just looks amazing. There's absolutely no reflections. You can still get reflections there. As you can see, a little bit of reflections still. Actually quite a bit. But over here now it's even reduced even further. I can't even get reflections on the screen anymore. So in a dim environment, it's going to obviously be, you know, it's going to be glorious because it's going to be super bright, really high color space. So you get those like super saturated reds. The greens are nice and saturated. It's going to look fantastic over here. And then of course, even when you turn on, you know, open up your windows or you have super, super bright environment, you're trying to struggle with a really, really bright environment. Even with that, it's going to look absolutely fantastic. Whereas, you know, my screen in the top corner there, I mean, it's just a reflective mess, right? So anti-reflective coating, very nice, especially for this type of scenario. And then it does have that ability to really cut through not only reflections, but also be nice and bright. Struggle with a really, really bright environment. Even with that, it's gonna look absolutely fantastic. Whereas, you know, my screen in the top corner there, I mean, it's just a reflective mess, right? So anti-reflective coating, very nice, especially for this type of scenario. And then it does have that ability to really cut through not only reflections, but also be nice and bright. So yeah, these UPERFECT screens are really good. If you're taking a portable screen with you, one of the issues is always going to be you're potentially going into a fairly bright environment because it's not like a controlled at-home setup. This is great. Even if you're not using this portable though, maybe you're only using this at home, you're using it as a secondary screen for your gaming laptop, your desktop, because it's big enough to be honest, or hook up your Switch 2, hook up your Switch 1, hook up your LG Ally, hook up your Legion Go. Honestly, Xbox, PlayStation, they're happier to be at 1080p, to be quite honest. So this is fantastic. And having that high refresh, 120 hertz with FreeSync goes a long way. So that's the UPERFECT there. Honestly, it's a really good screen. I like it quite a bit. This one specifically is designed to be in very bright environments with high reflectivity, and it does do a very good job in those scenarios. So if you're looking to potentially use a screen like this in a bright environment, on the go, on a train, in a cafe, in a classroom, or somewhere like that that's going to be super bright, maybe consider this one over some of even UPERFECT's other stuff, because the other stuff, they're all kind of specific to what they are. This one is going to do the job for very bright, high reflective environments, and you're not going to have to deal with that glare mess as you're going along. By the way, it comes with a carrying case. I forgot to talk about that. It has a little carrying case that you can open up. Nice, protective material, thin too, so it's not going to take up a huge amount in your bag. You just slap that in there, and you get a nice little sleeve, just to keep it from getting damaged, right? Potentially, it's a big screen, but it's small enough that you would take it with you. And this will just make sure it stays nice and safe. I may be kind of like a low production value YouTuber, to be honest, but I'm honest with my opinion. This is a UPERFECT monitor. This is a 4K monitor that I use as a secondary. I actually do a lot of recording and game capture on this one because it's 4K. It's overkill for what I'm eating. It's not as bright and all that kind of stuff as the one over there, but I just want to show you guys, I use UPERFECT monitors. I have a UPERFECT monitor right off camera as well, the OLED one that I use for things like my Nintendo Switch and that all the time. I really like UPERFECT monitors. They're excellent.